Walking into a pharmacy today can sometimes feel like a shopping trip to a department store. From the neatly tucked dispensary to retail space filled with home accessories, stationery, clothing, beauty supplies, and even food items. Collecting your prescription at the drive-through window and direct home deliveries now offer added convenience. Many pharmacies today boast technological advancements, aesthetic improvements, and increased comforts. But sometimes we simply don't give the profession the full appreciation it deserves in honoring all the efforts poured into the industry. We believe it is equally important to recognize the value and contribution of the original builders of the pharmacy legacy. As Marcus Garvey wrote, "A people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots." It is prudent to have great respect for the past and forge stronger into the future. We must know our roots to determine the best route to pave ahead.
Hi, my name is Berthlyn Jones. I am the GM and the Chief Pharmacist at J&J Pharmacy in Montego Bay.
My name is Margaret Wilson Blake. I am retired Deputy Director of Pharmacy from the University Hospital of the West Indies after serving for over 40 years.
My name is Basil Liu. I'm a pharmacist and pharmacy owner.
I am Yvonne Normadale Jackson. I have formed and operated the Great House Pharmacy since 1966. So I've been around a long, long time.
Hi, I'm Stafford Horton of Horton's Pharmacy in Mandeville.
I'm Leonie Wallace, and I have been a pharmacist for a number of years.
I am Herman Metcalf. I'm a pharmacist. I've been a pharmacist for a very long time.
I'm Hugh Dixon, pharmacist. Formerly retired, but I'm still a pharmacist.
I wanted to do medicine because most of us, if you're into sciences, biology and all that, medicine comes to mind. So that is what I wanted to do.
I chose pharmacy as a second profession because I wanted to be a doctor. But when I recognized that I would not be able to find the means to go to medical school like that, I went to pharmacy. And I'm very glad I did. It was the next thing to being a doctor. And it did not disappoint me either.
My mother was in the St. John Ambulance Brigade, and so I joined it at an early age. I was always interested in the healthcare, but not medicine or nursing as such. I was not too happy about blood. So when Mr. Henry Lowe at the time came to my high school and spoke about pharmacy, I said, "Oh, this sounds interesting." I said, this was what I would do.
I did not choose pharmacy. I was born a pharmacist. I came to my senses realizing that I liked to mix things. I would grate pear seed and use the red liquid and bottle it and beat up leaf of life and use the liquid and put it in a bottle and label it. So pharmacy chose me. And I checked out the program at CAST at the time, and I was accepted. I went in and had my interview. I was interviewed by Herman Metcalf and Hugh Booth, and that was it. I started pharmacy and I ended it in 1978.
I also applied to UTech, to CAST at the time. So I went there, picked up the brochure, and I looked at it and I said, well, I can do anything here. So I just ticked pharmacy. I knew nothing about pharmacy except that it was a fancy name for a drugstore. I had to borrow an encyclopedia from a teacher to read up what is pharmacy, and then I went to the interview and I got accepted. And that's it. I started and I liked it.
I was a very late entrant into the pharmacy program. I was an owner who was discouraged by the availability of pharmacists. And Mrs. Metcalf, who was a friend of mine, I had to turn to many times to try and source pharmacists for me. At one time, Herman said to me, "Basil, why don't you go and do the program yourself?" Which I did, and I was accepted, surprising to me. I had encouragement from my wife, who is a doctor. I was in my mid-40s at the time. But I took the challenge, and we started.
Mrs. Enid Dixon, a pharmacist at KPH, was in charge of manufacturing at the time. She knew my mother, and she knew that I needed to decide on what I would be doing. So she brought me an advertisement for a pharmacy technician program. And I applied and got into the program, and that is what started my journey to the profession.
I entered CAST in 1962 with about 13 or 14 other young Jamaicans doing the pharmacy course. It was a 3-year course. It was a diploma course.
Pharmacy was interesting to me because of the fact that it had to deal with taking care of people, and that is something that is innate in me. I like to take care of people. I like people to be well, and it offered me this opportunity to qualify myself and to make a contribution in that area.
I started in the profession in 1979 as a pharmacy technician, and then I worked my way into becoming a pharmacist. I worked at the Pharmacy Council for the last 20 years in the position as pharmacy inspector and then as deputy registrar. I am now retired from the Pharmacy Council.
As young pharmacists, we saw the generation of the Pharmacy Council, the building of the Pharmacy Council, the modernization of the structure of pharmacy in Jamaica, which is really driven by the Ministry of Health and the Pharmacy Council. And we were a part of that. As a matter of fact, I remember the senior pharmacist saying to us, "This is going to give pharmacists control of their profession." I'm not so sure we have control of it, but it is a lot different now to when I started.
Let me talk about some of the teachers. There was Mr. Tolson, he's an Englishman, used to smoke. Mr. Donaldson, I think he used to teach us mathematics. There was Mrs. Bruce, Miss Townsend, Dr. Lowe, Dr. Henry Lowe, great scientist.
Some of my teachers included Mr. Hugh Dixon. I remember Mrs. Wade. I remember Mrs. White. There was a Miss Gale who had us in chemistry as well. Miss Valucar, Mrs. Grizzle.
When I chose to go into pharmacy, they sent me to the Savlama Hospital. Then pharmacists used to go into hospitals and were trained. And I went to Savlama Hospital from Montego Bay, and I don't know about anybody else, but I think I had the best pharmacist in all of Jamaica to train me. His name was George Hamilton. And when I went to Savlama Hospital, he was the pharmacist, he was the chief pharmacist, and he was also the anesthetist.
The ones who were most impactful, Hugh Dixon, Mrs. Garbott, those two were very, very, especially Mr. Hugh Dixon, very, very impactful.
Now my classmates, in those days, back in the day, the classes were very small. There were like 4. But by the time I got into pharmacy, it had grown to the grand number of 12. So we have people like Jean O'Flynn, Jean Martin now, she works with Andrews, or she retired now. Sonia Lowe, Dorothy Bailey, who got married to one of the students in another course at UTech. What I loved, it was such a united group. We not only worked together and shared information, and I really hate to admit, but I remember one evening we stayed back and used the Bunsen burner and I was pressing people's hair. I had no training whatsoever in hairdressing, but you just have to have confidence.
I graduated with the same batch as Stafford Horton and Bobette Jones and Stephen Jones at that time. That was the first batch from CAST, Mr. Bennett, 1964.
I think my greatest impact on healthcare is in the area of teaching, because I spent a number of years at the institution as a lecturer, and I helped to lay the foundation for those who are coming out, because I realized that people believe that they become professionals after they graduate. You become a professional whilst you're in the course. And that was one of the things I instilled in those who were under my tutelage, that you are a professional before you come out. So you have to practice, and when you come out, you also practice thereafter.
I would hope that I would pass on to the young pharmacists values that will make them think about their service and the care that they give above any money.
I would like to leave behind, and which I have encouraged, is for persons to be lifelong learners. Learn something new every day. Do not confine yourself only to the profession, but also widen your scope.
I'm hoping from my own example that a number of pharmacy owners who have the prerequisite and the subject to go and do the pharmacy program, because really pharmacists need ownership to be very involved on the pharmacists, so that we know that the pharmacists will go and the practices will be to the laws and things of pharmacy in Jamaica.
A little neonate born with epilepsy, and his dad coming with the prescription from Mandeville Hospital. Over the years, I made the suspension for this little boy. His treatment went on, and as he grew and gained weight, I saw the increase in dosage until I forgot. I entered politics, and I was out of pharmacy for about 10 years. When I went back to the pharmacy, one evening I was serving some customers, and a gentleman said to me, "Mr. Hartney, you don't remember me?" I said, "No." He said, "I am the father of the little boy you used to make the medicine for this epileptic problem." I said, "What? And where is your son now?" He said, "Mr. Harden, my son turned doctor." And tears came to my eyes. So this legacy of helping people is most important for not only me, I think most pharmacists.
You don't know what you have done until somebody tells you what you have done, whether it be good or bad.
The legacy that I would like to leave is that pharmacists need to be professional. Know who you are and what you're about, and go about being. Don't be interested so much in titles. Be interested in the kind of service that you can give. One thing I've learned is that when you're a stickler for doing things right, sometimes you don't have people liking you that much, but I've learned that you're not to be concerned too much about people liking you, but the fact that they have to respect you.
Although I'm retired, I'm still working on that in terms of hospital pharmacy being recognized. Pharmacy in general is not adequately recognized in this country. The role of the pharmacist, what the pharmacist does, is not properly recognized. And hospital pharmacy with all its aspects, the total parenteral nutrition, the clinical pharmacy, all of it is not properly recognized. And this needs to happen. And as I say to people, when something major is happening, like the T20 cricket or something like that, it is the hospitals, the public hospitals, that have to be on call, as it were, for anything that may happen. The private sector is not responsible for these sort of activities. It is the public sector. If there is a catastrophe, if there's a hurricane or whatever, the public sector has to answer the call, and we need much more recognition than we are getting, monetary as well as otherwise.
Mentorship and leadership are very, very important, because that is how we pass on values, or we pass on wisdom, the things that we have learned.
Right now, in terms of mentorship, the Preceptor program, I think, is a very good program that helps to instill values and to guide young pharmacists. But I don't think that's adequate. What I think the Pharmaceutical Society needs to do is to have a program that guides young pharmacists and help to prepare them for leadership at various levels, whether in the different pharmacies that they will go to work, the establishments in which they will go to work, or for the pharmaceutical body itself. So I think we need to look at developing a program on leadership and helping people to prepare, to know what to expect. And it also applies to the workplace. So you'll find that our pharmacists come out after 5 years of training and they're thrown into a pharmacy to manage a pharmacy dispensary, but they really don't have the tools. And so it doesn't end well many times. I think we really need to look at having some kind of training that focuses specifically on teaching people the skills that they need to lead and to plan properly, have proper succession planning in place.
The new pharmacists, they need to do as we did in the former days, as it were, sitting at the feet of those older and wiser and learning new things. Although we have further education, we are doing doctorates now and all that in pharmacy, but still the basics are not to be neglected. Mentorship in terms of the soft skills, not only the hard skills. As I say, hard skills get you hired, but the soft skills get you fired. So you need the soft skills as part of the pharmacy thing, the customer service, how we treat our patients and one another, very important in my view. And so it is necessary to incorporate the older pharmacists in your preceptorship programs, in your mentorship programs, and not confine yourself thinking that only the more recent maybe persons holding PharmDs and all of that, but those persons who were trained in the very fundamentals in the old, if you want to call it the old times, are very essential, and they have a lot to offer to the present generation.
I want to see pharmacy being practiced at a higher level than we see now. Pharmacists are well trained.
But there's so much to learn about your patients, how to handle patients, and so on, that is needed. And I would really suggest that new pharmacists sort of humble themselves and learn more about pharmacy and accept mentorship, and it would make them a much better pharmacist in the long run.
I think the pharmacists these days are wiser than the pharmacists in my day.
Mentorship is vital because people need people to help to guide them. You're not telling them as a mentor what to do. As a mentor, what you're doing is listening to what they say and help them to work it out for themselves. Teamwork is important. Every one of us has a different ability and a different talent. And although I made a reference to the Bible, I think it was in one section with Paul that said all of us have a different thing. Some are leaders, some are this. So all of us have different talents. So therefore, strong I'm by myself, but together we can pool our talents and work together. And I saw it work at CAST when I was there with my team. So teamwork is vital, and you're not competing, you're helping each other, no competition.
So I do hope that I remembered as somebody who encouraged and who made my mark in that respect in terms of professional practice and in terms of encouraging people to do their best.
I would like to be remembered as somebody who gave of myself, who helped the other person, who give off the information that I have, pass it on to other people, share whatever knowledge I have with others.
I would like to be remembered as the pharmacist that tried to set and maintain the highest possible standard as far as the profession is concerned.
So service is important, and pharmacists are known for our service.
What I would like all of us to remember is how important it is to serve, and to serve with care, to serve from the heart, be empathetic and serve well. These are difficult days, I know. COVID has done a number on us, and none of us have seen this kind of time before. And I think that's even more reason for us to be empathetic and caring to those we serve.